Good, Ken. All right. The Phoenix Mercury. Who is the league leader in assists? Alyssa Thomas. Oh, you know this went well, right? Who'd she beat up to get there?
Right away, it almost seemed like an editing mistake, but it wasn't. The Phoenix Mercury genuinely shared a post about Alyssa Thomas leading the league in assists, and the reaction was absolutely brutal from fans everywhere. We're talking about thousands of comments tearing into the post, and what makes the entire situation so fascinating is that nobody is actually questioning the statistic. She truly does lead the league in assists. So why are fans reacting with this much anger and frustration?
She's a lying thug. Those aren't real assists. She has no basketball skill. Dirty-ass team playing victims. She's played more games. That usually helps. I mean, seriously, keep trying, but no one apart from you clowns take her seriously. And assaults. Well, I guess if you injure the previous assist leader so she misses games, this is going to happen. Real?
Take a closer look at those reactions. Every single response points to the same thing. That throat punch on Caitlin Clark, who'd she beat up to get there. League leader in assists and throat crushing, and also leads in assaults. The Mercury's social media team had to know this was coming. Alyssa Thomas has played more games than Caitlin Clark this season, which statistically helps her assist numbers. But fans aren't interested in context right now. They're interested in accountability. And here's what the Mercury missed. Timing matters a great deal. When you post a celebration of a player who just weeks ago was involved in one of the most controversial plays of the season, you're going to get backlash. The incident with Caitlin Clark is an ancient history. It's still fresh, it's unresolved, and fans haven't forgotten. Now let's talk about what Linda Cohn just said, because this is truly significant. Linda Cohn spent 34 years at ESPN doing SportsCenter. She retired from the network and immediately came out swinging on this exact topic. She's asking the questions that a lot of people have been thinking, but major sports media won't touch. Did Alyssa Thomas actually report those death threats to the FBI? Because if you receive credible death threats, that's exactly what you do. You report them to law enforcement. They investigate. They prosecute. Cohn's not saying the threats didn't happen. She's saying, show us the receipts. And that's a fair question. When someone makes public claims about criminal harassment, a story with 100 million views generates maybe a dozen problematic comments. That's actually a remarkably low percentage, but those dozen comments, if they're genuine threats, should be with the FBI right now. So, where's the follow-up? Where's the investigation? Where's the arrest?
I love that she took the high road here, saying this cannot happen to any player in the league, no matter what the situation is, players, coaches, whatever. But she also took the time, which I loved, to basically told the league to be better communicating. She also mentioned the officiating very subtly. I'm going to say it with an exclamation point. The bad officiating in the WNBA has led to most of this minutia. Yeah, most of this controversy. All of these controversies. Be better, officials. Is there an agenda here that I don't know about?
Pay close attention to what Cohn does here. She's praising Caitlin Clark for taking the high road, but she's also making a pointed observation. Caitlin Clark is frequently the victim of aggressive plays, questionable officiating, and online harassment, but she never plays the victim card. She doesn't go public with complaints about death threats. She doesn't call out specific players by name in press conferences. She handles it internally and simply moves on. That's a deliberate contrast. When you put those two approaches side by side, one looks professional and the other looks performative, and that's exactly what Cohn is highlighting without saying it directly. She's also bringing up something crucial, the officiating. She says it subtly, but the implication is clear. The bad officiating in the WNBA has created most of these controversies. When refs don't call obvious fouls, when they let physical play escalate, and when they're inconsistent from game to game, it breeds resentment. Players feel unprotected. Fans feel their favorite players are being targeted, and suddenly you've got social media wars erupting after every game. And now Cohn drops the real bombshell. Caitlin Clark was voted an all-star starter by fans and media. She received the second most votes from fans and the third most votes from media. Those are objective measures of her performance and popularity, but when WNBA players voted, they ranked her 11th among guards. Just let that sink in. The fans who watch every game think she's a top 2 guard. The media members who cover the league professionally think she's top 3. But her fellow players, the ones who actually compete against her, rank her outside the top 10. That's not a minor discrepancy. That's a coordinated message, and Cohn asked the question directly, why do WNBA players continue to bite the hand that feeds them? Because here's the reality. Caitlin Clark is putting up over 21 points per game and over 8 assists per game. Not many players in the league rank in the top 5 in both categories. That's elite offensive production combined with elite playmaking ability. The numbers don't lie. So either WNBA players don't understand basketball statistics, or they're deliberately undervaluing her contribution because of personal bias. Neither explanation reflects well on the league overall. Look at these comments on the Mercury post. Misspelled assaults, league leader in choking out white girls. She takes out the competition, and dribble handoffs, not assists. Every single response is either referencing the Caitlin Clark incident or questioning whether her assists are legitimate. That second criticism is particularly interesting because it speaks to a technical debate about what constitutes an assist in WNBA scoring. Some fans argue that Alyssa Thomas racks up assist numbers through dribble handoffs at the top of the key, a relatively easy pass that doesn't require much playmaking vision. Compare that to Caitlin Clark's assists, which often come from cross-court passes, no-look dishes in transition, and threading the needle in half-court sets. Both count as assists on the stat sheet, but one requires significantly more skill. That's the subtext of comments like griff passing and handoffs, not assists. Fans are saying the numbers don't tell the whole story. But the majority of comments aren't about basketball at all. They're about one specific play, the throat contact on Caitlin Clark that resulted in Nafisa Collier still being out with injury. Wait, that's not right. Let me clarify. From the fans' perspective, the comment references Nafisa Collier, but the main incident everyone is focused on is the Alyssa Thomas contact with Caitlin Clark that many viewed as excessive and dangerous. Linda Cohn also raises another important point about Caitlin Clark's response to the Alyssa Thomas controversy. Clark publicly said this cannot happen to any player in the league, regardless of the situation. That's a professional and measured statement. She isn't making the situation about herself. She's making it about player safety across the league. But then she did something subtle that many people missed. She said the league needs to do a better job communicating. She also mentioned the officiating. That wasn't accidental. It's a calculated message. Caitlin Clark is essentially saying the league office needs to get its act together. When controversial plays happen, the WNBA needs to respond quickly and clearly. Explain the call. Explain why supplementary discipline was or wasn't issued. Don't leave it ambiguous, because ambiguity creates conspiracy theories and fuels fan anger. And the officiating comment is even more pointed. Without directly criticizing specific referees, Clark is saying that inconsistent officiating creates these situations. When players don't know what will or won't be called, they push the boundaries. When stars don't feel protected by the rules, their fan bases become defensive. The WNBA has a referee problem, and it's affecting everything else. Cohn immediately picks up on that. She asks, is there an agenda here that I don't know about? That's a loaded question. She's suggesting the officiating inconsistencies might not be accidental. Maybe there's a deliberate effort to manage outcomes or protect certain narratives. She doesn't provide evidence for that claim, but she's planting the seed. And considering how many controversial calls have gone against Caitlin Clark this season, it's a seed that easily connects with many fans. What makes Linda Cohn's commentary stand out even more is this. She's not just a random YouTuber or podcast host throwing out hot takes for clicks. She's a 34-year ESPN veteran who just retired from SportsCenter. She has institutional credibility. She knows how sports media works from the inside. And she's choosing to spend her retirement calling out what she sees as problems in WNBA coverage and league management. When she asks if Alyssa Thomas reported the death threats to the FBI, that's not a rhetorical question. That's a journalist asking for verification of a serious claim. Because in sports media, you're taught to verify. If someone says they received death threats, you ask, have you reported this to authorities? Do you have screenshots? Can we confirm this actually happened? Not because you don't believe them, but because verification is how journalism works. The fact that there's been no follow-up reporting on these alleged death threats is telling. If the FBI was investigating credible threats against a WNBA player, that would be a story. Media would cover it. We'd hear about arrests or at least ongoing investigations. The silence suggests either the threats weren't reported or they were reported and authorities determined they weren't credible enough to pursue. Either way, it raises important questions about why this was brought up publicly in the first place. Cohn's point about the ratio also matters. 100 million views on a story and maybe a dozen problematic comments. That's actually evidence that the WNBA fan base is remarkably well-behaved. Every viral story gets trolled. Every controversial moment generates nasty comments. A dozen out of 100 million is simply noise, not a pattern. It doesn't justify claims of widespread harassment or a toxic fan environment. Now let's zoom out and look at what's really happening here. The Phoenix Mercury posted a straightforward stat. Alyssa Thomas leads the league in assists. That's factually accurate. But the response reveals a massive disconnect between how the league wants to control the narrative and how fans actually perceive recent events. The WNBA has a Caitlin Clark problem, but not the problem they think they have. The issue isn't that Clark is too popular or getting too much attention. The issue is that the league doesn't know how to manage the tension between its established stars and its new phenomenon. When controversial plays happen involving Clark, the league's response is slow, unclear, or non-existent. That creates a vacuum where fans fill in their own narratives. Look at what happened with the Alyssa Thomas incident. There was clear contact to Clark's throat area. It looked bad in real time. It looked even worse in replay. Fans expected supplementary discipline. Fans expected the league to make a statement about player safety. Instead, they got silence. No explanation. No clarity. They simply moved on to the next game. That's how resentment starts to grow. Now the Mercury tries to celebrate Alyssa Thomas's legitimate accomplishment of leading the league in assists, but they can't because fans are still upset about the unresolved controversy. The Mercury's social media team became collateral damage in a situation the league office should have handled weeks ago. If the WNBA had addressed the incident clearly and decisively, this post would have sparked normal basketball discussion. Instead, it became a referendum on officiating, player conduct, and league priorities. Linda Cohn understands this dynamic. That's why she's asking about agendas. She's suggesting that maybe the officiating inconsistencies and the league's reluctance to protect certain players aren't accidental. Maybe there's a deliberate calculation happening. Maybe the WNBA is trying to prevent Caitlin Clark from completely dominating the narrative. So they're allowing a certain level of physical play against her that they wouldn't tolerate against other stars. Is that true? I don't know. But the fact that a 34-year ESPN veteran is willing to ask that question publicly tells you how bad the optics have become. When your officiating is so inconsistent that credible observers are speculating about institutional bias, you have a crisis of legitimacy. And that's exactly where the WNBA finds itself right now. The All-Star voting controversy that Cohn mentions is another symptom of the same issue. Fans and media recognize Caitlin Clark's impact. They vote her as a top 2 guard, but WNBA players rank her 11th. That's not just a difference of opinion. That's a statement. Players are sending a message that they don't accept Clark's status in the league hierarchy. They're trying to put her in her place. But here's the problem with that strategy. The players don't control the narrative anymore. Fans do. Media does. Social media does too. When players vote Clark 11th and fans vote her 2nd, the fans win that argument because they're the ones watching. They're the ones buying tickets and merchandise. They're the ones generating the ratings that help pay everyone's salary. So when players try to diminish Clark's accomplishments through voting, they're not hurting Clark. They're hurting themselves. They're reinforcing the narrative that they're jealous, petty, and unable to recognize talent when it's dominating their league. Cohn calls this biting the hand that feeds them, and she's absolutely right. Caitlin Clark has brought unprecedented attention to the WNBA. Ratings are up, attendance is up, media coverage is up, and merchandise sales are up. Every single player in the league benefits from that rising tide. But instead of embracing it, instead of celebrating the fact that their sport is finally getting mainstream attention, some players seem determined to tear down the person responsible for it. Why? Pride, ego, resentment that an outsider, a rookie no less, is getting more attention than veterans who've been grinding for years. It's understandable on a human level, but it's terrible strategy on a professional level because fans see through it. Fans recognize pettiness when it's this obvious. And fans will remember which players welcomed the new era and which players fought against it. The Mercury's post was doomed from the start, not because of anything they did wrong, but because the league has allowed these tensions to remain unresolved. Every Alyssa Thomas highlight, every celebration of her accomplishments, is now filtered through the lens of that one controversial play. That may not be fair to Thomas, who is legitimately an elite playmaker, but fairness doesn't matter once you've lost control of the narrative. And that's ultimately what this entire situation reveals. The WNBA has lost control of its narrative. The league can't manage controversies effectively. The officials can't maintain consistent standards. The players can't hide their resentment of the league's biggest star. And the media, represented here by Linda Cohn, is starting to ask uncomfortable questions about whether any of this is accidental. So, what happens next? The Mercury will probably delete or ignore the backlash surrounding that post. Alyssa Thomas will continue leading the league in assists. Caitlin Clark will continue being the most popular player in the league while her fellow players vote her 11th. The officiating will remain inconsistent. And the WNBA will continue wondering why they can't capitalize on this moment of unprecedented attention. The answer is staring them in the face. You can't build a sustainable product when your officials don't protect your stars, when your players publicly resent your most popular performer, and when your league office refuses to address controversies directly. Fans aren't stupid. They see what's happening, and they're getting tired of watching the WNBA sabotage its own success. Linda Cohn sees it too. That's exactly why she's asking these questions. That's why she's asking for hard evidence, screenshots, timestamps, and actual receipts on the death threat claims. That's why she's pointing out the absurdity of players voting Caitlin Clark 11th. After spending 34 years in sports media, she knows what a functional league looks like, and she's watching the WNBA fail every basic test of professional sports management. The Phoenix Mercury's post became just the latest example. They tried to celebrate a player's accomplishment, but instead became a lightning rod for fan frustration over everything that's wrong with the league right now. That's not a social media problem. That's a leadership problem. And until the WNBA addresses it at the institutional level, every post, every game, and every controversy is going to follow the same pattern. Fans will keep asking for accountability, the league will keep staying silent, and the disconnect will continue growing until something finally breaks.